everyone and welcome back to my channel. I do really just want to get into this double missing persons case. I just wanted to start off by saying this is actually one of the first ever missing persons case I came across on YouTube. It literally fascinated me so much. I always wanted to do this video because I was just so fascinated by everything that had happened in this case, especially because it's two people. You hear the stuff that happened, you're probably going to be sitting there like, what the hell? Now, I am very hoping I pronounce all of the names in this correctly. Obviously, if I don't, it's not to cause any disrespect or harm to the girl's family. I've tried to do as much as I can in looking into seeing if there was any updates or anything like that, but as I know so far, there literally hasn't been much updating except from people just going over the same things again. We're going to get into this case now. It may be very long, purely because there is just so much detail. This case first starts on the 15th of March 2014 when Lissane and Kris, two Dutch students, went on a 6-week trip to Panama. And the only reason I know Panama is because of Prison Break, but apparently it's a really popular place for tourists to go, for people who are doing things like Lissane and Kris were doing, travelling together. So as you can probably imagine, being two Dutch students, they were a long way from home. The first 2 weeks that they were in Panama, they kind of decided to just do their own thing. They wanted to look at the island, see what it was about, go to some bars, just socialise really, get to know people. And when it hit their second 2 weeks in Panama, they actually went to go stay with a family. So these are kind of known as like host families. They take in people for the time that they are there, and that is basically like their home. And I guess it's a really good idea because obviously they know mostly the stuff that goes on around that area, where to go, where not to go, because they live there. And they were going to be staying at this host family's place for the next 4 weeks of their trip, so the remainder of the time that they were going to be in Panama. Girls had obviously been saving up a lot of money for this 6-week trip in Panama, and they wanted to go there just for generic reasons mostly. They wanted to learn a little bit of Spanish, they wanted to volunteer with children over there, and they also wanted to celebrate Lissane's graduation in applied science. And as I said earlier, they were young girls, do you know what I mean? They just were exploring things as best friends together, as you would do. The date was the 1st of April 2014, and Kris and Lissane actually decided to go on a hike that day. Now, the reason why this is very peculiar is because actually the following day they actually booked out a tour guide to help them do this exact hike which they were doing that day, which is something that some people just can never get their head round, and to me, very weird. If I had something booked the next day, I don't think I would be going and doing it the day before. The day before, around 11 AM, the girls left and told the host family where they were going because they actually took their dog Blue with them, the host family's dog. On the day that they left to go on this hike on the 1st of April, the girls were actually seen having some lunch with 2 Dutchmen. Now, I don't think there was anything in that. I think that that was just 2 people that they had met along the way. As I said, they're both Dutch. Well, all 4 of them were Dutch, so they had something similar with each other, maybe made them feel a little bit more at home. So I don't really think there was anything in that because days leading up to the 1st of April, they were actually seen with pictures with the girls that they'd posted online and things like that, but I thought I would just add that in there just so you guys know. They told them that they were going to the Clouded Forest. Now that name to me is just a maybe just don't do that. It literally sounds very dark and not a nice place to be, but this is where they were going to do their hike. Off they went with the dog to the clouded forest, and this is kind of like a jungle. When you see the pictures of it, it is large. It is a jungle. It is a rainforest, guys. This is in near Buru Volcano. Now I'm going to put the name on screen because I don't know if I said that right. The girls had been gone all day and it was starting to get dark now, so the host family weren't too concerned. I mean, that's not their kids, so as you can probably imagine, they just thought that they were out at a bar having some fun. But when they started to get concerned is when they opened the front door to their dog Blue just sitting there on its own with the girls nowhere to be found. So at this point the host family actually decided to call Lissane's parents just to make sure that they had any contact with them basically. But when they found out that they'd had no contact, they did start to worry, but like they said, they couldn't really do anything because they weren't actually their parents. You know, they couldn't say when they had to be home and when they didn't have to be home. But clearly this worried, obviously, Lissane's parents, because why would she not be contacting them or contacting the host family just to let them know basically where they'd gone? And from this I'm assuming that it's very out of character maybe that Lissane would do something like this. The next day around 8 AM is when the girls were meant to go on their actual tour, like hike, but as you probably guessed, they never showed up, and their tour guide Feliciano was very concerned about this. He had no contact with the girls, couldn't get hold of them. He didn't understand why they didn't turn up, so he contacted the host family, and that is when he found out that the girls had actually never come home that night. So they again start to be very concerned as to why again there was no contact. This is the bit that I don't really get, because it just keeps on saying about how they kept contacting Lisiana's family, but I can't really find anywhere where it said that Kris's family was contacted, but I'm hoping they were. Maybe it was just the way that it was put out there. But again, Lisiana's parents were contacted again, and I'm probably expecting the parents to be very, very concerned at this point. Imagine being in a complete different country and you've got people contacting you 2 days in a row saying that, you know, your daughter and her best friend have never come home. This is where red flags should have started before. But I can understand where the host family are coming from. Like, they couldn't really do anything because, like they said, they're not their parents. Actually, hours and hours later, 7:30 PM, so they were actually meant to go on this hike at 8 AM, and it wasn't until 7:30 PM when the girls were actually reported missing to the Panama police. April the 3rd, they decided to actually do a search for the girls. So bearing in mind they went missing on the 1st of April, this is now at least 2 to 3 days after, so well over the 24-hour mark, when it's very important when people go missing. And they basically done a very small search of the jungle, in which obviously they went to this hike, which is what the host family had told them. You know, the girls wanted to go before for some reason to this hike place. This included people like indigenous people, locals, police force. They just went and done a small search around the surrounding area, which I'm guessing is like the tracks of where people, tourists can walk. Unfortunately, as you probably guessed as well, nothing was found on this small search. There was no sign of them whatsoever, none of their backpacks, none of their clothes, nothing like that at all to indicate what happened to Kris and Lissane. And then on the 6th of April, Kris and Lissane's parents actually flew out to Panama, and they brought with them Dutch detectives, special canine units, everything like that to help aid the search in Panama, which you know, I think is amazing, because some cases you read about, certain police don't want to cross over with other police in case it gets a bit messy. But I've never really understood that. I think the more people that you can get involved, no matter what language barriers there are, the better. This search went on for 10 days, okay? People were searching all over this forest. Obviously, it's a huge jungle, can I just say? It's huge, okay? And they searched as much as they possibly could. Obviously, they didn't want people to be getting themselves in danger. So what they started to think was that, you know, there was one trail, okay, that was easily marked to say this is where you should go down, and basically it was a clear trail to follow. So that is where they first started to search. But people then started to say, well, what about this trail? So there was actually a second trail close by, clearly marked, do not go down here unless you are familiar with the area. Very closed off to the public. They didn't really want anyone using that, understandably. And basically, indigenous people and locals said that if the girls were to have gone down that trail they don't know why they would have, but if they were to have gone down that trail, there is a very, very high chance the girls would have just got lost. I mean, imagine being in a forest, you don't know what is left, you don't know what is right, going into a trail that is not marked and you're just walking through forest is going to be very disorientating and probably very easy to get lost in. So on June the 14th, they actually had their first hit of information. 10 weeks later, after their search had ended and everything like this, a local couple actually found Lissane's backpack. And when they found this backpack, it was literally nowhere near the trail. You'd have to walk very, very, very far into the jungle to find this backpack. I think they said something like it could take up to a whole 24 hours to actually walk to where this backpack was found. So it was kind of along the continental divide across the jungle, which is sort of near the hiking trail, but like I said, it would take a whole day to walk to that place. So if the girls were there, clearly they were lost. They did not know which way they were going, even if they had somehow come off the trail. So the woman who found it was caring for her rice field near this riverbank, and basically she said to the police that she was really certain that she did not see that backpack there the day before. So it wasn't in the river, it was on the river bank, okay? So keep that in mind. So it may have got washed up there, but the backpack was in perfect condition. This is 10 weeks after the girls had gone missing, okay? So they went missing on the 1st of April. This is now June, okay? The backpack was in perfect condition. Bearing in mind, this was a jungle. The weather sometimes during them periods were atrocious. The rain, everything like that, the winds. The backpack would have somehow been water damaged, especially right near a riverbank, but it wasn't. Everything inside was untouched perfectly. Now just going to read exactly what was found in the backpack. So both of the girls' passports were in there, all their money, both girls' phones inside, both bikinis, Lissane's camera, a water bottle, sunglasses, all in really good condition, as I said before. So to me, if there was any foul play involved, I would have thought that maybe this stuff would have been taken. A phone, a camera, you know. This is the very sad bit, which every time I listen to this bit or read about it, it just really gets to me, because I can't imagine the fear that these girls had being in a jungle, in a foreign country, in darkness as well, because clearly they were there over multiple nights. And when the police looked at the mobile phones, they had called 112, which is the emergency services over there, over a number of times over a number of days since the 1st of April. They had tried to contact emergency services, but as you can probably guess, from there being no signals, satellite, anything like that in the jungle, it was probably very, very hard to even get a ring. The first call was actually only made a few hours after the girl went on this hike, so literally on the 1st of April, I think they probably knew that they'd messed up and they were completely lost. One of the calls actually did get through, however, it only lasted a few seconds, not enough time for anyone to speak to them because the signal was lost and it was just completely cut off. This is when it starts to get very confusing with the phone situation. They saw that Lissane's phone died on the 5th of April, okay? So it completely died, she wasn't able to use it. But Kris's phone actually didn't die. It was actually just being turned on and off. Now, I'm assuming that was just maybe hoping that when I know that I turn my phone off, it's either because it's got no signal or I'm wanting to save battery. So maybe that was why Kris wanted to turn her phone off. This is where it gets more strange as it goes on, guys. Just stay with me. It goes very strange, okay? So on the 6th of April, Kris's phone was turned on, but then the passcode was entered incorrectly a number of times, okay? And this actually meant that the phone was locked and it had to be reset. And then on the 11th of April, Kris's phone was activated again, but it was only activated for an hour and then it was turned off again around 12 p.m. Said it gets even weirder, and this is why. Obviously in the girl's backpack there was actually a camera left in there, and on this camera there was over 90 pictures left on there from the 8th of April, okay, between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. Now I'm going to try and find these pictures and put them on screen for you. They could have meaning, they couldn't have meaning, but we'll talk through them. So some people have some theories that they used the flash to guide the way, or they were using the flash of the camera to signal to someone they were there, or there was a pattern to these pics. For example, a close-up one of the floor, and then 3 in the sky, then 1 far away in the distance, and then it was repeated. So as you can see, it was just like down, down, and then 1 in the front. Like, very unlikely for this to be repeated, like, without the girls knowing. So maybe there was some sort of meaning behind the pattern that they took these pictures. There was one picture that caught everyone's attention 100%, and it was of Kris from behind, and you could see that she had an injury to, like, this part of her head. See, this concerned everyone. After finding this backpack and everything like that, there was a search done around that area. Now, they literally found a few meters away on a rock Kris's shorts folded up and neatly placed on a rock. Not like just found, like they'd fell off or they were ripped off. They were folded and they were placed on a rock. Bit, guys, a bit gruesome. 2 months after finding the backpack and the shorts, they found a shoe. And in this shoe was a human foot. Yes, you heard me right. A full human foot in the shoe. I just want to say, this is actually really common, and if you want me to do another video about that, I will. There is actually a beach in America somewhere, I believe, Canada, I'm not too sure, where people's feet show up on the beach in running shoes. Not any other type of shoe, running shoes, which I've always found very fascinating, because has anyone ever thought, why is it the same shoe? But anyway, we're not focusing about that. If you want me to do a video on that whole thing, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and I will also look into that. But after finding this shoe and then the human foot inside, they actually found around 30 more bones of the girls in the same area, just scattered around, not together, scattered around. Okay, so they did actually confirm, after obviously testing, that this was Kris and Lissane's bones. So 28 bones were from Lissane's foot, a lot. Okay, no other bones were ever found, however. So literally, they found 30 bones, 28 of those were Lissane's foot inside the shoe. This is the bit which turns this whole thing on its head. You obviously at this point are thinking, Sophie, what is weird about this? They got lost in a forest, so what? It doesn't end there, guys. When they looked closer at Kris's bones, they noticed that her bones had been bleached. Because obviously the weather was so bad in the jungle at this time, the police had to stop after 3 days of searching, but the indigenous people actually wanted to carry on the search, which I think is absolutely amazing of them, and they done their own little search for the girls around the area where the bones were found. Where they found the girls' bones and the backpack and everything like that, it was very, very, very far from any trail. And the police were very confused because they didn't understand how the girls would have even survived that long with one bottle of water between them to get to the site where they found the bones. It just didn't make sense to them how they had managed to walk that far unless they were taken there. They really just didn't think it was even possible for them to have survived that long of a walk with only one bottle of water. And obviously, going back to the phone situation where it was turned off and on again over a number of days, guys, like a number of days, how would have someone survived that long without water? Going back to Kris's bones, obviously there was literally no natural reason as to why her bones would have been bleached, especially because Lissane's bones were not bleached. Like, you would have thought if they were found in similar areas that maybe both of the girls' bones would have been bleached by some natural cause, but it was only Kris's bones that were bleached. Also very strange to detectives was that neither of the girls' bones had animal markings on them. So it literally just looked like Lissane's foot had just fell off right there, and then Kris's bones somehow had fell off partial there, and then the rest of them were gone. But there was no sign of like animal marks on, like, bites on their bones to say that maybe they had been eaten by animals. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this, but Kris's bones were actually bleached with lime and phosphorus. I'll put it on the screen, okay, which literally is not found in this jungle. Okay, it's not found in the soil, it's not found in anything, but that type of bleaching can actually be matched up to the Mexican cartel, which is insane. The reason the Mexican cartel use this is because it helps to speed up the decaying process of their victim, whoever. I mean, it's very odd, I feel, that if Kris was attacked by the Mexican cartel, why was Lissane not with her? Why was Lissane not attacked herself? And if she was attacked, why they didn't bleach her bones as well as Kris's bones? And to me, that is the strangest bit, is the bone bleaching. That is the bit that got everyone really talking about this case. After that, guys, there is literally no more information. So I know that was a really long video, but we're now going to go into the theories of what may have happened to Kris or Lissane. It's all speculation. No one knows what happened to these girls, and it just breaks my heart that if it was all natural, that I'm hoping it wasn't anything horrendous. But again, the bone bleaching just does not make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me how parts of Kris and Lissane were found in the same area, but only Kris's bones bleached, and then the rest of their bones were just never found. First theory we're going to speak about is actually the monkey bridge. So I've not gone into this too much, I want to save it for the theories, but on one of the pictures on the camera, they actually saw that one of the girls had taken a picture of a monkey bridge. So a monkey bridge is kind of like, you've got the two ropes, you've got one on the bottom which you walk with your feet, and then you've got one along the top which you kind of like move yourself along, if you get what I mean. And obviously this can be very dangerous. It was over a river and everything like that, and they think maybe that Kris tried to go over this in the dark and actually fell off and hit her head, and that is how she got the mark on her head in one of the pictures, and that basically she died from that injury, which is kind of plausible, but again doesn't explain the bone bleaching. From this, they then said from this theory that obviously Lissane had to go on her own and she couldn't do anything to help Kris, which explains maybe why Kris's phone was disabled. Now this kind of makes sense to me now. So obviously everything was put into one backpack, okay? Clearly Lissane's phone had died, and she knew that maybe Kris's phone was still working, but she did not know the passcode, which is probably why it was locked. So she probably tried to turn it off to reactivate it and anything like I said previous. That is one of the theories. Obviously, the other theory is that the girls were ambushed in the jungle. So many people believe, because of the bone bleaching, that maybe the girls stumbled across a Mexican cartel drug thing going on in the jungle, and they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Many believe that Lissane, got away from the attackers and died of natural causes, whereas Kris didn't get away and they killed her and they bleached her bones and then got rid of her. But then again, it doesn't explain how they ended up in the exact same area. It doesn't explain. So I want to just say my opinion on this, because I thought of something that I don't really see much of. So I'm just going to go into it. So I'm very 50-50 on both of the theories, because both of them kind of make sense. But one thing that I just don't understand is how Lissane went so long without water, but then I guess she could have used the river bank, which was very close to where her backpack was found. Maybe that is where she had her last drink. But again, if she was able to find water, why did she just not stay there? Especially when there was a rice field right near it, which probably looked like people were tending to it. So the reason for this, I then go on to believe that there was other people involved. To me, it feels very odd that bone bleaching was involved in only one of the people, which to me means that someone else must have been involved. Now, it could be the fact that maybe Lissane did get away from these attackers. And one thing that gets me the most is that the dog left, but the girls didn't follow. If my dog was to run away, I would run after it. Do you know what I mean? Especially if it wasn't, more so if it wasn't my dog. So to me, that confuses me, why the girls didn't turn around and see the dog running away, and they didn't think, hey, we need to follow that dog, maybe it knows where it's got to go. Clearly it did, because it made it home. But there was something that stopped the girls from following that dog. That's just me. If I was in that situation, I would have followed the dog. I would not have let it run off. but maybe they were different, but I just find that the weird part as well. The reason I'm siding with maybe someone else was involved is purely because the girls went a day earlier. Now, I don't want to cause any disrespect with this theory, but I'm going to say it. My theory is that maybe they met someone the night before and, you know, they were local. They said that they really knew the area well, and, you know, why didn't they go on a free hike with them? And maybe the girls took the dog with them just to make themselves feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more safer, because I know I feel safer when I've got my dog with me. And maybe this dog, when it saw this person who they were going on this trip with, had a bad vibe. Now, I know my dog, she barks at anything, but she knows when someone's got a bad vibe and she'll growl at them. Maybe this dog ran away from them because they just knew that something was weird and off about this person, and then maybe something went wrong in the jungle when they carried on following this person. Then maybe something bad happened between Kris and this person, which resulted in a head injury. So the girls run away maybe, and then maybe Kris did die of natural causes, but this person found them and explains the bone bleaching. But Lissane knew that she couldn't stay with her friend because he might have catched up with them too. But there are just so many different facts in that, theories in that. I want you to let me know what you think might have happened. I said my theory, it's a big messed up theory, but things like that can happen. A lot of strange things can happen in this world which people would never even think of. But I hope you all have a lovely rest of the week, and I'll be back next Sunday with another video.